Hi guys, welcome back. Today I want to share with you my slightly related June wrap-up. I'm quite happy with the books I read this month. There wasn't anything out of the ordinary, so no 5 stars this month, but I did enjoy what I read. And yeah, let's jump straight in. The first book I finished in June was Ghost Wall by Sarah Moss. This is about a girl called Sylvie who is spending her summer with her parents on an Iron Age archaeological site, and they're basically doing experimental archaeology. So it's the three of them, her dad, her mom, and her, as well as a professor and some students from a nearby university. As the story progresses, the family dynamics start to show, and we see that Sylvie's father is very abusive, both psychologically and physically. I don't want to spoil too much, but basically things start happening and the father might start pushing the archaeological experiment a bit too far. What I really liked about this book is some aspects that I already found in The Tidal Zone by Sarah Moss, which I really loved. And it's a lot about family dynamics, about class, but it's also about people with different educational backgrounds coming together and how that plays out, and also about xenophobia. And this is, I think, very much a comment from Sarah Moss on the whole Brexit and things happening today. So I really enjoyed that, and I think in a book that's 150 pages, it really unpacks a lot. And I still really enjoyed other aspects of the writing that I really enjoyed in Sarah Moss's other book that I read. It's kind of eerie, there's a lot of landscape descriptions, but at the same time, she's describing really hard-hitting things. I must say that I still expected more out of that book. Maybe I just had too high expectations, but I think in the end, this book is probably too short to have really done all these themes that she tried to tackle justice. And another thing was this tension building up at the end of the novel, and the climax, which I cannot talk about, felt a bit far-fetched to me, which was really a pity because I really wanted to see where it's going. So, but you know, it's still a really good book. It's amazing writing by Sarah Moss, and yeah, I gave it 4 stars, and I still want to continue reading some of her other books. The second book I finished in June was, of course, the next book of the series of Unfortunate Events book that I wanted to get to. It's book 8, The Hostile Hospital, and in this book our 3 young orphans are fleeing from their previous guardians, or the previous place they were, and they end up in this hospital, and they end up really starting to learn more about the fire that killed their parents. As always, it was really fun, entertaining middle grade story, and yeah, I'm just gonna continue on my quest to finishing this series of 13 books. The next 2 books I finished in June were both gifted to me because June is my birthday month, and I was very happy to get 2 books. And the first one I actually got from my lovely lab mates and one of my very dear colleagues. She has been bugging me to read this book for a long time, and she absolutely adores it. So I was really excited getting into it. The book I'm talking about is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. So this is a thriller that's focusing on basically a marriage. So you have Amy, who is your typical New Yorker, and Nick, who is originally from Missouri. Before this book starts, they have moved from New York to Missouri because Nick's mother got ill, and the novel starts with Amy disappearing. So the whole book is split into 2 perspectives. You always have the chapters written from Amy's perspective, be it in diary form or just in the first point of view perspective, and others are written from the perspective of Nick. And basically we're starting to uncover what's happening as everyone is looking for Amy. What I really enjoyed was that it's a really interesting dissection of a marriage. Considering that it's something like 560 pages, I flew through it so fast, so it's very, very readable, and it always keeps you really hooked. There's some twists and turns happening. There's a big twist that obviously I'm not going to talk about, which took me by surprise, and it was very entertaining. I also thought the narration was really well constructed, that you have these two point of views that alternate, and I think it really helps you keeping hooked, because you have sometimes narratives that contradict each other and you still want to continue reading to find out who is right in the end. What did bother me though was that for my personal taste, I thought there was some kind of unnecessary swearing and sexual content that I felt like didn't really bring the plot forward, and it kind of annoyed me also because it felt really random and weirdly distributed. Like one character would talk in a way for some time and then suddenly be like super rude and swearing, and then I don't know, some chapters later it's not anymore. So that really bothered me because it didn't feel really consistent. The thing is, I really enjoyed the process of reading this book, but the end really made me mad. So I didn't like the end at all, but it's not necessarily a bad thing about the book. I think it makes somehow sense how it ended, but it made me really mad. Like it just didn't work with my personal sense of righteousness, let's say. So this was also something that really, really irritated me. But overall, I really recommend it. I gave it 3 stars, and I think it's a very entertaining thriller. It's very gripping, and it's really one of these bigger books that you can really dive into and forget everything else that's happening. The next book that I finished was also a gift, and it was gifted to me by my mom and my dad, and it's this really beautiful edition from Le Masque, which is a publisher in France that publish crime/mystery, and they also published all the Agatha Christie, so I'm really all for that. It's really a beautiful book. In French it's called Le Gondola Tamizh, and it's by Jessica Fellows, and the original English title is Bright Young Dead. And it turns out this book is the second book in a series of mystery books called The Mitford Murders. This is kind of the fictionalized life of the Mitford sisters, which were part of an aristocratic family with a really crazy history. If you just go on Wikipedia about the Mitfords, you'll understand what I mean. And so it centers around the 2 elder sisters, and the second sister, called Pamela, is having a big party for her 18th birthday, and during that party one of their guests is murdered, and right away people start accusing one of the maids, and Pamela and her own lady's maid are investigating it because they don't believe the maid did it. I really liked the feeling of this book, and on the back it actually says that it's like a crossover of Agatha Christie and Downton Abbey, and I think this is a really good way of describing this book. It's set in the 1920s, it's about aristocratic people and about the lives they lead, but I also really liked how this contrasted with the description of working class people and how their lives are. It's very, very readable and fast-paced, so I really overall enjoyed the reading experience. The resolution of the mystery fell a little bit flat for me. It's nothing like mind-blowing like some stuff that Agatha Christie does, let's say. It was a bit predictable, but the whole historical setting part was really making up for it. So I gave this 3 stars. It was a perfect read to just get lost into, and yeah, this is why my mom bought it for me. At least that's what she says, so this was just a perfect book for that. And probably I will check out the first book if I find it somewhere. The final book I read this month was The South by Colm Tóibín. This is set in 1950, and it follows a woman called Catherine who is leaving from Ireland. She's leaving her family and her life behind, and she is going to Barcelona because she wants to follow her dream of being a painter. And there she meets these two men who couldn't be more different. One of them, Miguel, is an anarchist veteran of the Spanish Civil War, and he's also a painter. And she then also meets Michael, who is also an Irish immigrant living in Barcelona. And they kind of both challenge what she actually wants out of her life. Not much happens actually in this book. It's not a plot-driven book. It's very much character-driven, and I really enjoy that combined with the writing that I know from Colm Tóibín. This is his first fiction work, so it's his first novel, and I really felt like I saw that. So I saw some of the ways he was describing things, and also some of the themes he's tackling are really reminding me of some of her later works. It's about, obviously, immigration, being an immigrant, about family ties, and how history of a country or a place can impact all of these things. I really enjoyed that there was this parallelism between Spain and Ireland in many ways throughout the book. You have this aspect that you have the Spanish Civil War on one side, and you have the Troubles in Northern Ireland, and both these conflicts play a role and have an impact on the characters' lives. I really like the tone and the description and this overall melancholy that you can find in Tóibín's works. I found it there and I really enjoyed it. I did, however, feel a bit more distanced from these characters, especially Catherine, compared to how I felt towards some other of his female heroines, like Eilish from his book Brooklyn and Nora from Nora Webster. Obviously, this book is a lot about art and art techniques and galleries and all this stuff around it. And sometimes it was going into it in a bit technical detail, so these parts were not so interesting for me. But overall, I really enjoyed the reading experience. I'm really happy that I read Tóibín's first novel, and I'm just gonna continue and read the other books he's brought out since then. Alright guys, these were all the books that I got through in June. I would love to know if you've read any of these, if you have any interest in picking them up, and just in general, what did you guys read in June? What were some of your highlights? Do you have any recommendations for me? Of course, I always take them. And yeah, I'll see you in my next one. Bye!